Welcome to the Downtown Madison Happenings podcast, where we hear from our members and learn something new about downtown Madison. This podcast is brought to you by the law firm of Carlson, Black, O'Callahan, and Battenberg, located in downtown Madison. Carlson Black specializes in commercial real estate, business, and tax law. Carlson Black is a proud member of DMI and represents many members in building a vibrant, equitable, and inclusive downtown. On today's podcast, we have a good friend of DMI and a great friend of downtown. I don't know why I put more value on friend than he is just a great person. We'll just go with great. Matt Brink, the founder of BDLIM Consulting. He's involved in so many great projects here downtown with smart growth, with just doing so much for the downtown community. Today, Matt is going to show us some amazing photos and renderings of the Archipelago project on East Washington Avenue. That is a multi-stage project that is transforming the East Wash corridor. We are excited to hear some news about future parts of this project with great friend, Matt Brink. Matt, how are you?
I am doing very well. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I mean, you and your family have been involved in East Washington Avenue forever. With the Brink Lounge, you were there before really anything else happened in this sort of the latest renaissance. Why did you get involved at the Brink Lounge?
Yeah, it was just something that kind of fell into our lap. That building was purchased back around '02, and we did some minor redevelopment to the building. We put a second story on it. And as we were trying to figure out what to do with the lower level, my father and I came up with the idea of opening an entertainment venue. So fast forward 15 years, we're still there. And it was pretty much the first redevelopment, although small, on East Wash. It was pre-Don Miller site being taken down or any of the kind of major buildings that have come up in the last decade or so. So yeah, it was quite a different world back then, for sure.
I mean, you were literally surrounded by either power plants, great, MG&E, the Capital Power.
Yeah.
Awesome, they're there. But then also with the used car lot dealerships, so it was just surface lots. I mean, you really made an early bet on that area. Why? What did you see about East Washington that you thought, this is going to be something special?
Yeah, it was just, you're always looking for the right opportunity and you try to think you have foresight. And sometimes, you get lucky. And, again, when the Brink Lounge building, as we call it, 701 East Wash, when it was the buy and sell shop, when that became available, it was just very visible, right? It's right on the corner. And we thought there was a lot of potential to kind of maximize that building and, again, add a second story to it. So yeah, we just saw it as a great business opportunity and took a chance on that. And then even earlier, back in 2002, was when the land that is now Archipelago Village was purchased. It's the old Mott's Paint factory. And it was just something that we knew it would be a long hold, the way that the site was zoned. And we can touch on that later, but it was just something that my father and his business partner saw as an amazing opportunity, given the amount of land that was there. And we just waited until the right business climate was in place. And, Hotel Indigo opened, and now our next phase is coming to completion. And it's just, kind of been one thing after another over the last several years.
I mean, you've just seen these phases come right up with you with the work of Otto Gephardt, the great work Otto has done in his team with Constellation and Galaxy, with Rich and Helen at Stonehouse, with Lyric, with Starting Block, with the Gephardt building, with, just amazing. And then more and more projects to come. Why do you think the development has kept feeding off of itself and just we've seen more and more in this area?
Yeah, when Otto came through and did his first development there, I think that really allowed people to take a step back and see what the potential could be. When, again, as we mentioned, when the Don Miller sites were there and things of that nature, East Wash coming in was certainly not met with much fanfare. It was just kind of a dead street. There just wasn't much to look at and appreciate as the main thoroughfare into the capital. So again, when Otto's building went up, I think that really allowed people to say, wow, what more can occur here? And that side of the street allowed mixed use, right? Apartments and retail and business, things of that nature. So that was more, I think, not easy, but easy to get that phase out of the ground first. Whereas the side of the street Archipelago was on, that was straight business. So we couldn't do housing as soon as we otherwise would have. So we just kind of had to wait our turn, kind of for lack of a better term. But when Otto came through, and it was received so well, and people wanted to live there, and businesses wanted to be there, and all the traffic counts and the different metrics that go into analyzing land acquisition, all that's there on East Wash. So it's just kind of really a self-fulfilling prophecy. As one building went up, it densified, more interest came, and projects just kind of continued to occur. And Archipelago was, oddly, we were one of the first to purchase that land, but we'll be one of the last to kind of complete the redevelopment cycle of East Wash. So we're, I guess, bookending it in some way.
Well, I'm excited to see what this next phase is. But before we get there, though, I think it's important to know how important was the public-private partnership, right? The city coming in, doing all the planning work. That was a pretty important part of what's happening. And also the city doing a lot of work on their property, Bree Stevens, and really helping to create a multi-use section of our downtown.
Yeah, all the work that the city put in was just immense. And you mentioned Bree Stevens. That's one of the things that really helped kind of kick off the kind of internal discussions of, all right, is this the right time to do something on the site? We had a historic building on the Archipelago site, so we couldn't take it down. So that kind of hindered what we could do and when. But Bree Stevens and just the continued focal point that becomes on East Wash and the city in general, it just gets more people to the area and gets more people excited about either working or living in that part of the city. So all the work that went into the East Rail Corridor plan and urban design districts and things of that nature, they really did a great job in working with developers and neighbors and all of that process. It has to go in on the front end of large scale redevelopments like this. So now, as we've been working through the process with them, it's been a great plan to follow, and everyone that's been involved has been successful, which is great to see.
Wow, and you just see this, it doesn't seem to be stopping, right? The continued development. We're going to talk about your project, the Archipelago, but at the same time, I know you're helping consult on Baker Place. You have Moxie Hotel, you have Tinsmith that just opened up very recently, the Art and Lit Lab in the parking ramp, obviously the Sylvian, all of these amazing multi-use venues that are part of downtown. And when you have a successful downtown, you've got a lot of residents, check that for East Washington. Yep. A lot of workers, check that with the Gaspard building and Spark and all the rest. You have a lot of activity. You just mentioned Bree Stevens, and you have a lot of tourists that are now going down there. So you have this environment where I think we're going to see more growth. So speaking of that growth, let's talk about Archipelago, right? The phase one was the amazing Hotel Indigo. If you haven't been there, highly check it. Go check it out. Go take a tour. Go eat at Palette. It's fantastic. But what are the next phases of the project? What do they look like? And I know you have some drawings for us.
Yeah, I'd be happy to share my screen now. So as you mentioned, let me get this up here. So the first phase, as you mentioned, was Hotel Indigo, kind of the northwest corner of the site, East Wash and Patterson. That opened in 2018. So that was a really unique development. The first kind of corner building here was known as the Kluter Building. It was a grocery store warehouse facility and at one point, and it was built back in 1915. So it was a historic building, as I mentioned previously, that we couldn't take down. So we had to incorporate that somehow into whatever the first phase development would be. And then Hotel Indigo just came up as an idea and really came to fruition. And seeing kind of the old section and the new section was really a neat process to go through. So we had to store tax credits, and there was contaminated soils on the site. So there was a lot of kind of nuance and intricacies to the development. So seeing that come and to completion was very rewarding. And then we were like, okay, what's going to be the next phase? As you see here on the rendering, phase two, which is labeled as under construction, is a Class A 5-story, 90,000 square foot office building. The anchor tenant will be moving in roughly mid-February. We're still at that phase where we can't quite mention who it is publicly, which is okay. But that was also quite the process to go through. Again, the building's basically completed. We're going through punch lists now. So if you drive by it, it's something that we're really, really proud of. It's a full brick facade, kind of harken back to kind of more of a warehouse type feel, something that we feel is really appropriate to have on Main Street, which is what the address of that property is. And then attached with it was the first phase of a very large parking structure. So it's kind of mid-block. It's a 383 car structured parking ramp with a skywalk that connects the parking ramp to the office building. So employees of the building will be able to park in the ramp, leave their coat in the car if they want, walk in. It's going to be a very, very pleasant environment. So we're really proud of that. And it was a multi-year process, as all big developments are, just to get this phase completed. And now we're moving right into the next phase, which is showing as number 5 here. And that's planned to be 37 residential condos. And that's kind of a unique play on kind of the residential buildup that's occurred on East Washington. We've kind of touched on this so far. In the pipeline right now for Madison, from either under construction to planned, is about 5,000 apartment units. And that's on top of everything that's obviously already happened on East Wash and then west of the Capitol as well. So there's a ton of supply coming into the market. So as we were looking at a residential phase, we had to analyze, do we want to do apartments, which we initially designed this building to be, or would we want to consider something different? And what kind of helped spur that discussion was the success of the Barracuda Condos over by the courthouse. A little bit smaller, about 14 to 16 units, but that sold out relatively quickly. And that's received great reviews. And again, there hasn't been a high-rise condo development since pre-recession, like 04, 05 type area. So that's what is going to be occurring next. And we hope to start that in second quarter of 2022. So that's the next phase that's coming. And then eventually we'll do the main tower, which fronts East Washington over on this side. We have it fully approved as an office tower, but COVID has kind of put the brakes on a 200,000 square foot office building. So that's okay. You always have to be able to adapt. So we'll wait a little bit on that phase of the development.
So you already have so much happening already in this space, in this own block. What amazes me about East Washington is you have these blocks, like the block to your west, all the development that happened there. There's so many uses within that block itself, right? You have event venues, you have restaurants, you have commercial space, you have a hotel going in. Same thing with this block, a hotel. Now you're going to have some residential, commercial space. It really is creating this, larger environment where people can enjoy, and you're seeing that happening throughout East Washington Avenue. So how did each of these projects feed off of each other? And how did the success of one beget the success of the rest?
Yeah, so you mentioned Baker's Place, which is a project I'm consulting on just on the other side of Patterson, so right next door to us. And that's going to be 214 apartment units. And as we mentioned in the start of the conversation, when Otto's first project got off the ground, I always forget if it's Constellation or Galaxy. I think it was Constellation. When you see that success and people start viewing East Wash in that manner, it just begets more success and more demand. So the other things, aside from Bree Stevens and the other aspects that you mentioned that are really attractive, is the Sylvie, right? We have a massive entertainment venue connected to a parking ramp. So that brings people down. But the grocery store is also huge. Having festival down there was a big calculus in us looking at our residential component and what would want to bring somebody down there. It's very bikeable, right? This area of East Wash is 100 on a biker's paradise is how it's rated. So there's a lot of live, work, play that Madison talks about all the time. And then bus rapid transit, that's planned, right? We just kind of lucked out and there's a planned stop right at East Wash and Patterson. So all these things that just keep seeming to happen on this major thoroughfare allow developers to put their eyes on it and just back out the finances too, right? Because with material pricing and things of that nature, it's challenging. Things are even more expensive than they used to be, and to get the loans and that whole side of the development, it has to work and it has to make sense. So you want to be in a dense urban environment to get the scale that you need, but then also have amenities outside of your development that people either living or working in that area would want to enjoy. So again, as more and more stuff comes up, the more reason to be there is seen in the public, and it just creates more excitement for the area.
And all with help from our friends at Carlson Black, which is amazing. Matt Carlson, Dan O'Callaghan, helping the project. I'm sure they've been pretty integral in the success of moving forward. Yeah,
they really have been. The Archipelago site is a very, very complicated site, both from contaminated soil and everything that goes into dealing with contaminated soil with the DNR and soil management plans and brownfield grants and all that stuff that you have to have a really good legal team behind you is one aspect. But then the site we broke up into multiple separate condominium blocks, essentially within the main block that is bordered by the various streets. So that provides different advantages for the development. So we set up that structure as well. So there's just a lot of moving parts, and working with your clients, right? The big one that's going to be moving in. A lot of negotiation goes into those deals, of course. So relying on an organization like Carlson Black that has the experience that they do has really just we couldn't have done it without them. So it's been a great partnership.
Well, Matt Brink, we are so excited to see Archipelago continue to grow. Watch for it on Patterson, East Main, East Wash. Just an amazing project. You can see it literally happening when you go to a Forward Madison game. So
that's right.
It's all over the place here.
Yeah.
All right, Matt. I didn't tell you this beforehand, but we're going to put you through the Fast and Furious 5. Matt, I'm going to ask you 5 questions off the top of my head. Haven't written them down, I promise, about your favorite parts of Madison. Just give us your answer right off the top of your head. You willing to play?
Okay. Absolutely.
All right. What is your favorite restaurant downtown?
Enovino, the one on the square.
Good
that's
choice.
my favorite. Yeah.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Also, yes, a very good restaurant with a very good view.
Yes.
What's your favorite concert you've ever seen in Madison? Now, because you've been in Madison a long time, you're a native Madisonian. So what's your favorite concert you've ever been to?
This might surprise some that know me, but it was Metallica. I grew up a major Metallica fan. So when they came to the Kohl Center, it was actually right around my birthday. So that was an amazing show. So that was my favorite. Yeah.
All right, we'll give you an easy one. What's your favorite color?
Blue. That's my shirt.
Yeah, good. Yeah, Matt does like a good blue suit. He always wears dress. I always appreciate that. Okay, right. Matt, if you could do one thing downtown right now, if gone, everything's back open, what would it be? What's the one thing you miss the most during COVID?
Well, downtown, I'm like you mentioned, we haven't seen each other in a while. So just being able to network, and probably I'd be at Madison Club. I guess that was kind of my pre-COVID life. I would be down at the Madison Club at some networking function, or it'd be kind of the standard things, right? Concerts on the square when that was downtown. That's something that I loved. My family and I would do that all the time. So I'm hoping that that can come back maybe next year as well.
I'm intrigued by your answer, though, because I see you at the Madison Club, but I certainly see you more often in Ancora. It's almost like, I miss seeing you in Ancora.
Yeah.
All right, last question here. What is your one favorite hidden gem that other people don't know about downtown?
Oh, boy. I have to think about this. I don't know about a hidden gem. This is difficult. I hate to punt. I don't know. What have other people said? Maybe I could agree.
You can agree. I want me to tell you what mine is.
Yes.
Mine is the top of the outside. You can go on the observation deck at the Capitol. You can do a 360-degree tour up on like the 5th or 6th floor. I could not recommend it more. If you have a visitor coming to town, do that first, because then they'll understand what an isthmus is. They'll get their orientation on the east and the west side.
And I've done that. I wholly endorse that. I was in the Capitol randomly one day with my family on a weekend, and we wandered and found it. It was incredible. So yeah, it's an amazing view. Well,
Matt, you can take mine all day long. Matt,
oh, thank you
so much for joining us. Matt Brink is of BDLIM Consulting, a longtime downtown advocate. We are so thankful for all your work, Matt. Keep up the great work at Archipelago. We can't wait to have you back on when construction begins next year.
Yes, that'd be great.
Thank you for all you do for downtown, my friend.
Thank you. Great to see you.
All right, everyone, have a great day. Thank you for joining us. The Downtown Happenings podcast, brought to you by our great friends at Carlson, Black, O'Callahan, and Battenberg. Please join us for the next. We will continue to update you on all things happening downtown. Talk to you soon, and bye now.